Welcome. We are the Rational Dress Society. I am Comrade Abigail.
And I'm Comrade Mora.
So we are a counter-fashion collective that is based in the United States, and we are here as part of the gallery show that was just mentioned in Moss, which is called Don't Feed the Monster. Please do join us if you want to take the train to Moss. Tomorrow is the opening at 2 p.m. We'd really like to thank Franz and Maria for curating the show, and also for you guys for having us here to talk as part of the program today.
Just want to say something about the show?
Sure. So the show is, as you can see, we included the Norwegian version. So the show is about our contemporary moment of where we are within garments, garment production, and also overconsumption, which is something that we're going to be speaking about today. So the show is a group show containing a number of artists who are taking a critical look at where we are and thinking about alternatives and also suggesting new ways of doing things. So without further delay.
So we'd like to start our presentation today with a short 1.5-minute video. After that, we're going to talk for around 15 or 20 minutes about our project, and we would be happy at the end to answer any questions or have a kind of more open-ended conversation if you'd like. But first, a video.
What stands between you and revolution? Nothing.
So for the last 5 years, Abigail and I, the members of the Rational Dress Society, have been producing Jumpsuit, an open-source ungendered monogarment which proposes to replace all clothes in perpetuity. We ask, what if you never had to pick out an outfit again? Jumpsuit imagines a garment free of the signs of class, race, and gender that inscribe our usual relationship to fashion.
So I want to talk a little bit about where we started with the design first. So I want to talk a little bit about the specifications of the garment and specifically the design. So jumpsuit is designed as a utopian garment. I'm going to have Moira walk out here. Keep going, keep going. And so we wanted it to work, so to function both as a chameleon, so something that could be worked into people's wardrobes immediately, but also it's literally rooted in workwear, specifically the visual language of denim. So as you can see here, it has a convertible collar, which just means that it doesn't have a collar stand, which is typical of a button-up shirt. It has a fly front closure, which does make it very easy to use the toilet. Everybody is very concerned about this. It has a heavy-duty zipper, which is quite robust, and you can see the wash difference, the wear between Maura's garment and mine. Maura's is a handful of years older than mine. Mine is a bit newer, and you can see it's still lasting just fine. There are several pockets. There are diagonal seam pockets in the front. And the curve of that pocket is exactly halfway between a trouser pocket and a denim pocket, which sort of points to that idea of a chameleon. So you could ostensibly wear this in any situation. And then in the back, we have two very standard jean pockets. The entire garment has been top stitched throughout. It also features a raglan sleeve, which now I have the better example here. Maura has modified hers. Can you hear me okay? Yeah? Okay. So the raglan sleeve is the one that goes diagonally into the arm here, and it allows for a very nice range of movement. So jumpsuit comes in a fall-winter edition and a spring-summer edition, and the modified summer. DIY. She's from Los Angeles. So the long sleeve just has the fall-winter just has a long sleeve, whereas the spring-summer has a short sleeve.
So one of the things that we considered when we were designing jumpsuit is what it would mean to make a truly ungendered garment. Historically, in fashion, the term has been unisex, and what this has often meant, in effect, is that you have a garment usually designed for a cis man that has simply been sized up or down. The problem with this, there are numerous problems with this. One is that you end up with a garment which is supposed to be a garment for everybody, but which sort of paradoxically ends up, because none of the proportions shift, it ends up looking kind of fitting radically different across different bodies. So you might imagine like a parent or a child trying on their parent's shirt or something like that, right? The proportions are all wrong. Also, historically, one of the ways that unisex garments have been designed visually, and I think that this is still true of a lot of contemporary garment design, unisex garment design, is that you end up with a garment that just kind of fetishizes a thin, tall, androgynous body. And doesn't accommodate, so basically you end up with a kind of unisex, but what this really means is a garment that's designed without thinking about breasts, without thinking about hips, right, without thinking about body fat distribution of different kinds, and the tremendous variability in the human body. So we wanted to create a garment that would truly be accessible to all people, in as much as we could do that, right? It's a kind of impossible goal, but we try very hard to achieve that as best as possible. But within that, it would also bring us together visually. So we like to say that jumpsuit embraces the differences between bodies while preserving the visual oneness of the collective.
Which brings us to NASA. We used something called anthropometry, which is the study of human measurements. And we did actually use some data from NASA, which is the US space program. We also used data from uniform companies and a number of other sources in an attempt to try and find as much data about the human form as we possibly could. One of the things that you may have noted in the video, it said that there are 200 sizes. This is, in fact, untrue. There are 248. So 248 individual sizes, and our sizing system continues to grow. So briefly, the system that we have developed has 3 base body types. We call them I, V, and A, which you can see here. So everything is based on variable differences between the hip and the waist, and then the waist and the chest. And so if you look at the letters, they very much signify just that. So I is going to be a more average proportion, straight up and down. V skews a little bit broader at the chest, and then A is going to skew a little bit broader at the hip. And then to each of these, you can add bust darts to accommodate breasts. So bust darts are these little fronts. So when you sew your pants to your shirt, it is important to make sure that you leave enough room for your entire torso. This is similar to what Maura had mentioned earlier, where we embrace the differences between bodies. So for example, and I'm sorry to use imperial measurements, but I don't know how many centimeters I am. But if somebody is many more centimeters tall than I am, then I cannot wear their garment. It's not possible. And that same very tall person cannot wear my garment. And so you can see we have a number of different height categories. And then one of the other things that you will notice in our many sizes is that the naming conventions move away from sizes like small, medium, large, or size 2 or 36 or whatever it is that your sizing system is. And that is really very intentional because we've had found that these numbers actually didn't mean anything anymore. So in American sizing, size jean, that is a 27, once upon a long time ago used to have a relationship to a waist measurement, but more or less this relationship has evaporated. It's called vanity sizing. You can see we have, I'm wearing a size December. I don't think it's up there anymore. But you can see we have fork, knife, spoon, and a number of other sizes. And here's a wonderful example of some comrades in our jumpsuit.
So we made jumpsuit in response to a very simple question, which is, what are we going to wear today? Over the last 25 to 30 years, there have been major changes in the garment industry. We generally call these changes fast fashion. Historically, the fashion industry has operated on a 6-month seasonal cycle, which is why we have like fall, winter, and spring, summer fashion week, right? That's the time it would take to conceptualize, design, and produce a line of clothing. With the advent of fast fashion companies like H&M, Zara, Forever 21, Primark, many others, this production cycle has shrunk rapidly to 2 to 3 weeks typically. So that's 2 to 3 weeks from when a designer has an idea and puts pencil to paper to that garment being available for you to buy on store shelves. So this is a massive sort of paradigm shift within the fashion industry. This shift is facilitated by vast networks, sort of international supply chains, in which you have a company like H&M. A lot of our data is from H&M because of a Human Rights Watch report on that company specifically. So if you're a company like H&M, you have 1,800 individual manufacturers across multiple countries, including China, Bangladesh, Cambodia, many others. Those companies have subcontractors who they subcontract out to. So these are sewers, people sitting in factories sewing. Those subcontractors often have subcontractors. So the result is a massive, incredibly opaque system of production. And the result of that system is, of course, environmental crisis and rampant abuse of workers. In Cambodia, according to Human Rights Watch, workers are often denied sick leave. There are mass fainting spells. And protesters in the last few years who have tried to organize have been murdered by police. So this is typical across the industry. So the numbers, sort of sheer numbers of garments that are being made is staggering. It's increased radically in the last 30 years. One more statistic for you. The company, and it's difficult to find these statistics, so we typically can find them for one or another company, but you can extrapolate across all of them, right? So the company Zara alone, according to a report in 2015, made 1.23 million garments per day.
So, how do you sell so many clothes? So one of the easiest ways that you can sell 1.23 million pairs of pants or shirts is to make sure that they do not last. So according to their own literature, garments are not designed to last more than 10 wash cycles. It is not you. Your clothing is falling apart. So when you wash your sweater and it comes out completely shrunken and with holes and so on, it is cheaper, it is less money to buy a new one than it is to repair the one that you currently have. And so we talk a lot about shame, and we do not want to shame people, right? Because it makes economic sense. So the question is then, well, what about the systems, right? How are these systems producing this kind of choice? So we talk about choice and something called choice paralysis or choice overload. So if you have ever been into an American supermarket, I invite you to the toothpaste aisle, where you will see any number of 10,000 different brands of toothpaste, right? They all perform the exact same function, but you want one that's whitening and sensitive, just whitening, just sensitive, do you want the one with the cartoon characters on it, and so on and so forth. And so there are studies that have been produced that really question this idea of having endless amounts of choices. So when you are presented with a very large number of indistinguishable choices, for example, a tank top, the act of choice actually produces despair and demotivation and dissatisfaction. Whereas if you are presented with a smaller and more limited number of choices or more meaningful choices, the act of choosing actually causes feelings of motivation and also satisfaction.
So we bring this up because we're often told that all this consumer choice is great, that it's democratic, that everyone can afford to be fashionable now, and that we're all going to express ourselves in this miraculous new economy in the dressing rooms of Forever 21. We would argue that our garment, jumpsuit, offers a way out of this situation, right? That we've been sold a certain kind of happiness that's not being delivered. So we would invite you, we, the members of the Rational Dress Society, would invite you to reject choice, otherwise known as the yoke of relentless consumption within the capitalist paradigm. What if you never had to pick out an outfit again? What bonds might be formed between jumpsuit-wearing individuals? The time for action is now, comrades. We invite you all to wear jumpsuit, the universal garment, to replace all clothes. Thank you.